Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge. Always a pleasure to have your company. I am doing it solo once more. Liam is unfortunately unable to join us. He will be back, of course, but personal life comes first and foremost, as it always should, ahead of SuperCoach. So I'm here to man the fort yet again. And round 6, well, it was a very trying time for a majority of coaches. And the common theme separating those that scored off the charts to those that struggled was whether you owned one wispy Nicky Daicos. And even more so if you had him as your El Capitano, which, I did, thankfully. But we also saw the downside of relying on too many on-field rookies in round 6 and reminded by the likes of Zach Reed in particular of the deviation in their games that can scuttle your round. And we also saw the return of Bont smashing out a 159 in his return game for 2025, whilst Butters one-upped him with a 164 in his third game. Start saving those pennies, ladies and gents, as they could be our M1 and M2 for this season. But of course, Nicky Daicos will have something to say about that. We'll discuss all that and more, of course. But before we get stuck into things, if you're not following us across our socials, you can do so via, of course, YouTube. Simply search SuperCoach Edge. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of when our content drops from week to week by hitting the notification bell as well. On Twitter, you can find us at SuperCoach_Edge. Find myself at DamoJ88. You can find Liam at LiamEvans_95. On Facebook, Insta, TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge and you will find us there. Now, just wanted to draw our attention across to our YouTube channel as well, because we are announcing, which I did announce in my team talk video, which you may have seen already or heard if you are of that persuasion that you enjoy the audio podcast side of things. I did mention that on YouTube, we have activated our membership program. So if you navigate across to our YouTube, you will see at the top of the channel there next to the subscribe button, there is now a join button. So you get access to exclusive emojis you can use, all little classic references to, captain's hat, I'm the captain now, all that sort of stuff as well. And then there's 2 tiers. So there is the gold membership, there is the platinum membership as well. You get all these other little perks attached to it. So you can check that out before you join, of course. And 2 different pricing structures. It's almost the cost of a coffee. Nowadays, I think a large coffee is probably more expensive than a gold membership. So go and check that out. All the details are there. Of course, no obligation. If you want to join us, if you want to support the channel, feel free to do so. And that is up to you, the good people, the you people of the SuperCoach Edge community. So with that, let us jump into, first and foremost, how Liam and I both fared in round 6, and then update, of course, who was victorious in our in-season head-to-head. And, of course, we will chat about all things trades because we are in upgrade season well and truly, and, trying to get the best cash cows into our team as well. So with regards to how I scored, I ended up scoring a 2,225. Ranking-wise, I actually went up, believe it or not. So I went up 6.6K spots, and I guess last week I ended up dropping, I think it was around about 5K. So this was well and truly a redemption round for me, and then some, because I rose 6,612 spots specifically to now sit inside the top 10K for the first time in 2025 with a season rank of 9,331st overall. In terms of trades, it was a round where I scrambled and had to pivot as one of my cash cow inclusions in Gross was named as the sub, and I imagine a lot of you out there had to do likewise. So instead, I opted for Al Hawley, based purely on his defensive midfielder DPP status, because that allowed me to swing Holmes between both of those lines, and I needed Holmes, especially on the bench, because I had the captaincy on Lucas Camporelli to loophole to, I guess, lock in Daicos's VC. So I needed someone on the bench that was actually active, that I could loop their score on field, because I had Sartis, who wasn't playing, and a couple of others as well, rookies that are just not doing anything. So, and Gross would have been one of those as the sub. So I pivoted to Al Hawley and whacked Holmes into the midfield on the bench there and was able to loop his score on field. And of course, that move in itself came courtesy of Moraes, who I parted way with from Port Adelaide. Caden Cleary also came in as my next cash generator for the upcoming weeks at the expense of Connor O'Sullivan in flex. And whilst Callahan, he made way for Daicos, who I gladly, as I said, put the VC on. and claimed his huge score first up. So that makes up well and truly for the poor captaincy score Sarong delivered me last week. I was once again thinking I was in a little bit of a pickle because, rookie roulette, as I mentioned last week, that struck hard for me. And I thought, here we go again, another consecutive week of rookie roulette going against me. And it was in the form of Zach Reed on field for me. He only scored 38, and I thought, here we go. Those people that had Trainer on field, he's going to have a field day. But as it turned out, there was that worst scenario for me had I opted for Trainer, who ended up scoring 2 as yet again another rookie named as the sub. So not the best scenario, but out of those two, it was the best outcome. And I think it worked out anyway that Zach Reed's score actually fell out of my team. So it was kind of by the by. And yeah, didn't really do too much damage there. In terms of how Liam went, I'll just recap him. So he ended up scoring a 2,066. So he struggled like a majority of the competition, and ranking-wise, he is unfortunately 50,000 overall, 50,142nd, but he's making moves, and I think he mentioned that LDU is one player that he's going to use as a springboard to Daicos, I think, from memory, maybe another player, but he ended up bringing in Merritt last week. He mentioned to me that he was toing and froing between Daicos and Merritt. Merritt with a massive matchup against the Eagles, who he was averaging, close to 120 or something ridiculous against the Eagles in recent games. He opted for him, and as it turned out, Merritt had a little bit of a downer, which was a surprise, but is what it is. I think Merritt's going to be a keeper as much as what Daicos is, so it will work out in the long run, I think, anyway, to a degree. So in terms of our head-to-head, so I was lucky enough to beat him by, I think it was maybe my biggest margin all season, 159 points. Of course, as I said, I had that out-of-the-box round this round. And the differential for us, or between us, now sits at 411 points. 5 wins to me and just the 1 to Liam. Now, however, is the time that is my favourite anyway. I don't know if it's your favourite, tuning in from week to week, but let us know, because everyone has been kind of a little bit quiet around our round remix, of course, where we wrap up the week that was in parody song form, and it is, as I said, round remix.
Captain Loophole, double score dream, best 18 heroes, that's the ultimate scheme. SuperCoach hustle, points on the board, every player stats like a secret hoard, but now is the time to get your fix. It's the SuperCoach Edge round remix. Round remix.
So let us know how we're going. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts of these parody tracks that we are putting together? Because I hear no news is good news. People are enjoying them. Had a few people in our Discord give us thumbs up and really so there was actually a song maybe a couple of weeks ago that sounded eerily like Nickelback, which I didn't pick up on, but one of the listeners mentioned this, and I was like, you know what? Actually, it does. So I'll have to go back and have a listen to that. But this week, of course, we are again laying down another track which best summarizes the round that was. And this week, I was racking my brain. I'm like, well, just when I was typing up the summary for the intro to this episode, and I was like, well, the big thing that blew us all away was the form of obviously Bont in his first game back, but Butters as well, who's just hit the ground running. And it just reminds us of, the tried and tested theory of, not settling for second best, third best, always reaching for the top shelf. Hence the reason why this song is called Invest in the Best.
And Pelly's flying high, he's the man to seize the sky. Butters dancing like the breeze, breaking rules with such ease. SuperCoach dreams are on the line, grab the stars while they shine. Points are stacking, hearts attacking, victory's ours for the taking. Save your money, save your soul, invest in legends, take control. Must-haves, must-buys, don't shy away. Load your team for Judgment Day. Stack the scores, fill the board. Life's a game you can't every trade's a move you made. No time to waste, every call a brimming taste. The rules are written, the game's begun. Massive scores under the sun. Take the risk, let fortunes lift. Butter skills, your golden gift. Build your kingdom round by round. Champions rise, hear the sound. Save your money, save your soul. Invest in legends, take control. Must-haves, must-buys, don't shy away. Judgment Day, stack the scores, fill the board. Life's a game you can't ignore. SuperCoach best parade, every trade's a move you made. Late night watches, endless tweaks. Victory's taste on your cheeks. Bont and Butters, the winning crew. Your SuperCoach squad pulling through. Save your coins, play your mind. It's all about the perfect find. Final siren, hear the roar. SuperCoach dreams forever soar. Save your money, save your soul. Invest in legends, take control. Must-haves, must-buys, don't shy away. Load your team for Judgment Day. Stack the scores, fill the board. Life's a game you can't ignore. SuperCoach best parade, every trade's a move you made. Yeah.
Absolute banger. Another banger just to add to the listings that we've been unveiling week on week. It's kind of a bit of vibes of Metallica there. It kind of starts off really like kind of mellow for a rock song and then like goes to the next level during the chorus. And it's kind of like, yeah, Enter Sandman. That is the, of course, as I said, the latest track to come for our album, which we are titling Hits to Advantage, courtesy of one of our listeners / viewers mentioning that on Twitter. So thank you, kind sir. Love that creativity. So we might just run with that. That is that. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what your thoughts are, how this track itself rates for you among those that we have unveiled week on week. But with that, and with round 7 on the horizon, let us now jump into trade talk with The Price is Right.
The price is right.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Yes, The Price is Right. For those tuning in for the first time, welcome, first and foremost. But The Price is Right is the segment where we discuss potential trades and trade targets from week to week, or whether a specific player under question should even be traded at all. So we're going to kick things off with the first category of You're Fired. And first up, we have Bailey Humphrey, forward, 338.6k with a break-even of 78. And yes, good old Humfraud, as Liam and I referred to him as when we first spoke about him when he was on the bubble, sounding up, I guess, the prospect of him potentially being a trap. And geez, that's very much what he has been, because we mentioned the possibility of Humphrey losing crucial CBAs with Touk Miller or Sam Flanders potentially being dialed up with those CBAs. And it's unfortunately what has happened with Humphrey's CBAs dropping from 41% to 30% to 14% to just 13% on the weekend. And that decline has been, as you can see, incrementally introduced there week on week. Over that time, his scores have taken a nosedive as well, with 111, 64, 74, and 48, which correlates with his drop in CBAs and the fact he's being camped more within the forward line as well, which is never a good thing. Most alarmingly, however, the 74 and 48 came against the Roos and Tigers. So to struggle scoring against, paltry opposition isn't a good sign at all. He has made 68.2k in total profit, so it is probably a good time to use him as a stepping stone to a genuine keeper. So if you could put money on the head of him and get in Nicky Daicos, do that in an absolute heartbeat. So, look to jump on guys like Daicos now, and this is probably the easiest way to get rid of these guys that are the stepping stones that kind of have been a little bit of a failure. He's probably been, at this stage anyway, looks like he's going to be a major failure and won't be a top. A lot of people, I think, we're getting him into their team as, a decent scoring on-field cash cow, much like a Ryan Marrick, for example. But yeah, he just hasn't paid off, unfortunately. So if you do own him, I would look to move him on. Likewise as well, the rookie in Jack Henderson, mid-forward, priced at 166.9k with a break-even of 54. And we spoke about the prospect of him being dropped last round after he was subbed out of the game in round 5. And that's exactly what happened, unfortunately, in round 6. He was just dropped. He's now virtually a discontinued cash cow, but the good thing is he has made 67.8k, so he might be your ticket to jumping on a fresh cash cow unless Henderson does provide use as a non-playing player loophole between both midfield and forward. So it's not the end of the world compared to other, comparing it to maybe Lucas Camporelli, who's only a mid, and you can't do too much with him in terms of using him as a loophole. To get a bit of a look at, emergency scores off the bench. Let's move on to the next category, and it is in the firing line. And first up, we have Connor O'Sullivan, defender, 306.2k with a break-even of 85. So O'Sullivan has been scoring solidly enough across his first few games of his career with scores of 48, 88, 77 and 103, but his last two leave much to be desired with scores of 42 and 54. This has seen his break-even rise to a lofty 85, so we'll need one of those spike scores to stop the cash drop. Not a definitive must trade, but at that elevated price point, he sits in the same category of the other fat and cash cows in Trainer and Reed, so one to consider. So with that, we spoke about Trainer. Let's speak about him now. Luke Trainer, defender, 264.2k with a break-even of 74. Adam Uze, he did us dirty on the weekend, naming him as the sub, and worse yet, bringing him on for the last 5 to 10 minutes of the game, scoring 2 and all but halting his cash generation. Now that lowly score will stick around in his price cycle for 2 more weeks, but once it cycles out, his break-even will drop back down to a 30 if he can score, for example, a 56 in his next 2 games. And if you're patient enough, best yet, he actually faces the Eagles and the Kangaroos in back-to-back games. He has made 150.7k to date, so he has met the profit expectations of the 150k mark that we set for each rookie. So if trading him frees up much needed coin to bring in Daicos or another fallen primo, he could be worth moving on. Otherwise, if you would like to hold, that's also totally understandable, as he still may make more dollary dues. Moving on to Christian Moraes, midfielder, 199.9k with a break-even of 46. Now, the 94 that he scored in his second game now seems like eons ago, as he struggled to reach his break-even of 36 on the weekend, which saw his price drop 1.9k. He has increased 86.4k to date, and really uncertain if he'll keep his spot in Port's senior team longer term. So just really something to keep an eye on and be really wary of. He could very well kickstart his cash generation yet again with another spike score, but if you need to colour fatten rookie in order to free up money to fund an upgrade, he could be one to consider moving on. Rounding things out now with Zach Reed, defender, 264.7k with a break-even of 14. So Reed was a massive disappointment against the Eagles with a score of just 38, especially given the Eagles were competitive and had the ball in their inside 50 5 more times than Essendon with 47 to 42. So there was ample opportunity there for Reed to take marks, distribute the ball, get his hands on the ball a bit more, but just wasn't to be. But given Reed's break-even is still very achievable at 14, he still has money to be made yet and will make 21k if he can score on par with his season average of just 62. Whether you trade him is up to you, and whether you need a fatten cash cow to cash in to fund an upgrade is probably another thing to consider. As we did with Trainer, there is definitely grounds to keep him just as much as there are to trade, and is very much team dependent. So I'm not here to give you definitive advice, because it comes down to your team, how it's structured, if there's any other better cash cows to cash in on, or do you settle on Reed potentially? So that's in your hands. Now let's move on to the next category, and it is trade-in candidates. So first up, the big one. It is Nicky Daicos, midfielder, 608.8k with a break-even of just 54. Now, it is official. Daicos is well and truly back. Now, we saw tags across a number of games, restricting him to 66, 98, 94, but broke the James Jordan tag to score 134. And once more, he ran right and could not be contained by Jared Berry. And I think McCluggage, albeit he was playing pretty loosely on him, he scored 172, Daicos, in that game on the weekend. So we ponder whether these last two games especially are a sign of his newfound maybe ability to break tags. If so, this makes him even more of a must-have. After bottoming out last round, he went up 24k, but is still 22.6k underpriced on his starting price, so is still, in that respect, a massive bargain. He now faces the Dons on Anzac Day, and we know his quality in this game, having won an Anzac Day medal himself and scored 128, 92 and 145 in his past 3 games. And I think his last 2 Anzac Day games were that 128 and 145. Of all primos, he should be number 1 on everyone's list, and you won't get him any cheaper than this with a 54 break even. He is ready to head to the moon. So don't overthink it, just do it. Don't aim for, those high guys in Bont who's, nearly 100k more expensive, Butters, etc., etc. Go for the underpriced primos. That's the name of the game thus far, and play by the numbers. Just do it. Next up, we have Elijah Hewitt, forward midfielder, 188.3k with a break-even of -8. I guess after time spent on the sidelines through injury, Hewitt did repay the faith for those owners that kept him, and I was one of them, thankfully, producing a season high score of 97 from 21 disposals and 2 goals won. This saw his price increase 39.3k for a total of 65.5k, with more money to be made having kickstarted his cash generation. There is no doubting his job security. The obvious thing to worry about, though, is his durability, and his DPP is extra handy as well for double the line coverage flexibility if required. So don't mind him as a prospect. A lot of these, cash cows and players that we are mentioning now have, gone up in price, but they're still sort of in a range where if you are struggling to find a cash cow, a genuine one that has decent job security, Elijah Hewitt is definitely one of those. You've just got to kind of take the risk if you want to with regards to his durability. If you tick both of those boxes, he would be, almost definitively top trade-in option. Let's move on now to another option, and it is Will White, as I like to call him, Walter White, because he is W. White on the team sheet. He is a small forward for Carlton, 144.4k with a break-even of -47. So White has increased his score week on week with 29, 53 and 79, which saw his price increase 45.3k on the weekend. Will he keep his role longer term? That's probably the big question. Carlton is playing 5 small forwards, which isn't sustainable, so provided that he can maintain his form, he will stick around in the team. However, being a small forward, he could be a slow burn cash cow, as scores will no doubt fluctuate wildly. So you've got to ask yourself how many spots you can afford for those types of cash cows, alongside the likes of other slow burners in Kako, etc. So yeah, it comes down to not risk appetite, but I guess it is in a sense. But in terms of, do you aim for the better cash cows that, may not be the slow burns, but may cost you some extra money? Or do you go for a Will White at that price point there? Something to factor in. Rounding things out for this category, we have Christian Petrarca, mid-forward, 481.6k with a break-even of 95. And we spoke of Track as an option last round, so we won't deep dive into his stats again, but want to highlight areas that give an insight into his role and SuperCoach production, which is linked to it. One such area are his CBAs, which on the weekend were at a season-high 82%, but it only produced a score of 94, only slightly up from his previous 2 games, where he scored 96 and 92, when he actually had lower CBAs in the form of 65% and 50%. So you would think with the extra CBAs on the weekend, his score should have gone through the roof, but it didn't. The issue on the weekend that put a cap on his scoring ceiling was his poor disposal efficiency, again, with just 64% after 59% the round prior. So if you can clean this up, we will start seeing the massive ceiling scores that we love to see from Track, but it is the one thing that is holding him back by and large across the board. So he's already dropped 74.6k overall and does, however, face Richmond and West Coast in his next 2 games. So it sounds like a good time to jump on him if you are especially desperate for a forward and a mid-forward DPP at that. He's in a very good spot as an option. I think a lot of people have already built out their forward lines. As we know, we're all batting pretty deeply with, say, a Horn Francis, McRae, Rankin, Basilenka, Caleb Daniels. So a lot of us are rolling with a Davidson or another rookie at F6. So, if you've already got potentially Daicos and you're looking for, a bit of a value fallen primo, then Track may be one to consider. But whether or not you go for him this week or maybe a holdout, I'm kind of in the boat where, last week people were kind of weighing up. Do they go for Dylan Moore? Do they go for Petrarca? Similar price points in terms of output, very similar historically. And they're kind of playing forward roles with sputterings of CBAs. I think now it's only a 1 game or 1 week sample size, so it's hard to definitively say. But last week I was more confident in Petrarca anyway compared to Moore. Moore, I found, thinking back to our analysis of him in the preseason, his score isn't intrinsically linked with, the number of CBAs he's getting. If he gets more CBAs, more often than not, he's scoring very similar to when he's playing predominantly forward. The main part of his game is when he kicks goals. If he's not kicking goals, his floor does drop, and likewise his ceiling scores as well. So I think with Petrarca, he's already got that, what we're seeing from him at the moment is almost kind of an in-between his floor scores and his ceiling scores. I think this is almost teetering on his floor score because he's, kicking goals, he's moving into the end of the room, he's racking up touches, but the upside, the only thing that he needs to clean up is, his disposal efficiency. So with that, I will keep an eye on him. I won't get him in as such yet because he's not a must-have. I'm happy enough with Davidson making coin and scoring on field for me, but I'm keeping a very, very close eye on him. That is for sure. Now, there is one very late inclusion to this episode, to the point that I've actually gone back and edited this part in. And it is via popular request, as you'll see very shortly in terms of discussion points in our Saul Goodman Q&A segment. I just thought I better go back and include this bloke because it is a discussion around Ned Long, midfielder, priced at 311.6k with a break-even of -26. So for those that jumped on Long, would have enjoyed a 110.7k profit thus far. It probably, seems like a bit of a strange move to be discussing him as a trade-in option, but with great cash cow options seemingly drying up, it may be a left field option to consider, much like Matt Flynn, at a higher price on-field cash cow sort of role. The key also, just speaking of role, with Long is with regards to his role. So after being a perennial sub, it seems he is now a key part of the Pies engine room, with the equal most CBAs on the weekend at 65% alongside Pendles. Prior to that, he also had 72%, which was the second most behind only Daicos. And the best way, I guess, to describe his role is the fact that he is now the replacement virtually for Tom Mitchell in the role as the, extractor at the coalface, and relegated his direct competition, more importantly, in Jordan De Goey primarily to the forward line with spatterings through the middle. So any real worry about him being subbed again seems almost a thing of the past, given his rock-solid job security. Now, there is a discussion around scoring. So he is averaging 107.7 in his 3 full games that he has played, with scores of 113, 144, and 96, of course, discounting his sub-affected games. And a big part of his scoring has been his tackling prowess. I think we spoke about Ned Long last week, but we will again here. A big part of his scoring is the cuddling. He loves it. He's had 7, 6, and 6 in those 3 full games he's played. And he's one player who, I guess, loves to tackle, loves a cuddle. And with that, as we always say, it provides a very solid scoring floor, or, a foundation to really build upon, that thereby elevates his scoring ceiling at the other end. Now, if he averages 80 odd on a consistent basis, he should have the ability to make another 100k. And if he can sprinkle in some spike games above that 80 mark, he'll increase even more. So he's already scored, a 96, 114, 113 in these 3 full games. So, he's someone that I think just needs to be discussed. Like, there is the other full game that he played in his 3rd game against the Dogs He did score a 57, which wasn't obviously around the same mark as the other three. You've got to come to expect that there are going to be games where he has low scores. He's not a primo in any sense of the word, but he is scoring almost like one, but he's not of that status or ilk. So we can't really place, the utmost confidence in him. So having said all that, is Long a must-have? In short, no. But he is one option to ponder for those who want to take a little bit of a risk, because I say risk because, for example, if you're trading a bit of a slow burn cash cow, for example, in Kako to him, you'll need to invest 100K into that trade in order to fund it. And at the end of the day, over the course of the season, both could realistically increase in price to a similar degree from here on out, not obviously counting the 110.7K that Long has made already. From this point on, we're comparing both of these players as an example. Kako's at 100K cheaper price point. Doesn't have to average, obviously, as much as what Long will need to make the equivalent profit. So it's really something that needs to be considered, because people can fall into the trap of, paying up for cash cows in a sense that don't pay off. But one thing that Long does give you when you're comparing both of these players, taking the cash cow element out of things, is Long allows you to bench a less reliable on-field cash cow, such as, say, a Lindsay or a Hewitt, Moraes. This is the thinking that I had myself behind, the reason why I brought Marek into my side at a very, very similar price point. I think he was around about, 311K or thereabouts. Let me just have a quick look. Like, Marek's since gone up since then. I brought him in at 320. So he was actually, 9K more expensive than Long. And he's been able to score 88, 84, and 91 in those 3 games since I brought him in. And he's gone up, 66K. So for me, the primary reason was his on-field scoring, Marek, compared to his cash cow ability. He's still going to make a little bit of cash, Marek, which is totally fine, but that's secondary to the reason why I brought him in. I think in this case, the on-field scoring from Long is really good, and it will give you a leg up over the rest of the competition in that sense, if he's provided his scoring can continue. But yeah, the cash cow element side of things, it's a little bit murkier compared to, as I said, a cheaper prospect in, say, a Kako from here on out. Obviously, not having that 100K spare in the bank in this example here, which I'd need to put on the head of Kako. If I was to do it myself, this is probably the move I would do. I've got 100K spare in the bank. I need to invest that with Kako and then bring Long in. But it means that I don't have 100K spare in the bank, that when it comes to upgrades, and I'm eyeing off for my team at the moment, a bit of Sinclair action, you'll be forced in that case to downgrade, use a downgrade trade in order to fund that upgrade to, say, Sinclair or Primo, whoever you're eyeing off. So there is shortfalls with regards to this and the risks that you take. And this is probably one of the bigger risks as well, because it scuttles a bit of your trading cadence, as I call it, like with having money in the bank every week, even after you've made upgrades, to then fund that next upgrade. So you're not relying upon using a boost. So that's something to think about. But having said all that, with limited solid cash cows on offer at the moment, this is definitely, something to ponder, no doubt. We have to think about left field avenues to making money and having solid enough scorers on field, so we're not, having to swallow the slow scores or low scores from cash cows on field. So again, I liken it to Meek last season. A lot of people jumped on him at a similar price point, and he provided solid scoring on field, but also really good cash generation as well. So he probably fits into that bill. Marek, likewise. Flynn is another one who I'll speak about in a moment. But, he falls into that category very, very suitably. Let's move on to On the Bubble. And first up, we have, in like Matt Flynn from the Eagles, ruckman, 261.9K with a break-even of -73. And yes, this is the same Flynn from West Coast most of us selected at the flex position in our starting sides. After a tough matchup against Wits in round 1, which garnered a score of 87, Flynn was promptly and unfairly, I think, dropped but soon found his way back into the side on the weekend after a dominant form in the Waffle. This saw him score a massive 141 in his second game against the Dons, but noting that Draper went down in, I think it was late in the fourth quarter, so was rucking for a small period against Peter Wright. But Flynn had scored a majority of his points already up until then. So if you didn't see the game and you're looking at the stats and you're like, well, Draper's gone down. He was rucking against Peter Wright the entire game. He wasn't. So he actually performed quite well against Draper. And Draper and the Dons historically have been quite a restrictive matchup to opposition ruckmen. So it wasn't a necessarily good matchup for Flynn, but he still scored well, which is even better. Now, the main worry, of course, is whether Flynn gets dropped again. Well, with the way that McQualter is dropping players left, right, and centre at the Eagles, including Tim Kelly, Clay Hall, and the like, it seems no one is safe, established or rookie players. But the key in picking up Flynn, perhaps for the second time, including myself, I fall into that boat, is the fact we only need Flynn to play the next 2 games to realistically make us 100K, which requires an average score of 80. And considering that he was able to score 87 in the toughest matchup against Wits, you'd assume he will walk this in, even if he does face Meek and Gawn in his next 2 games. With quality rookies all but drying up, this is, I think, an alternate route we might have to take in order to keep our cash generation ticking over. I very much liken it to Lloyd Meek last season. People jumped on Lloyd Meek. I think he might have been a little bit more expensive actually than what Flynn is at the moment. But, Meek was kind of in a battle with, for the number 1 ruck mantle. He finally got it. And those people that jumped on Meek were absolutely laughing all the way to the bank because not only was he producing, really good scores on field, but also he was making bulk coins. So, filling 2 quotas that you'd love to have from a player. So I am a big, big fan of Matt Flynn. Willing to take the risk. Yes, it is a risk, but surely McQualter is done with dropping Flynn. Unless he does something ridiculous, he's going to stick around on the team, I think. Let's move on to the next candidate, and it is Matt Carroll, defender for Carlton, 99.1K with a break-even of -65. And the young Carlton defender has been impressive in his first 2 games, both in a football and Supercoach sense, scoring 60 and 64 in his opening 2 games. The beauty is his role, which utilises his very solid offensive game, pushing up the ground, which elevates his scoring ceiling. And he's a very, very calm, cool, collected, composed player. And as a Carlton man, I truly believe that Carroll deserves to keep his spot as he is impressed. But, logic is never really factored in when it comes to Carlton's team selection from week to week. There are so many head-scratching calls. But the one thing with Matt Carroll is he actually impressed me thinking all the way back to the practice game against St Kilda in the preseason. He was playing with such confidence, assurity in his game of someone that had been at senior level playing for, seasons on end. So he's looked really good. He's actually a really good field kick as well. Calm and cool, collected under pressure. And, having said all that though, there is still uncertainty with his job security because he did come in kind of off the back of Lockie Cowan going out injured, and he's playing an equivalent role where I think probably better than Lockie Cowan in a sense where Matt Carroll's playing a better offensive game compared to Lockie Cowan. He's kind of that, better defensive player in a sense. So they're not really like for like, even though he's kind of brought in to play sort of his position. But the one thing with Lockie Cowan is he was projected to be out for quite a number of weeks more than what he's actually slated to come back for. Because he's actually come back and has been named as a test for this week's game. So one to really keep an eye on. But having said all that, talking about structure for Carlton, given, as I mentioned it earlier, we're talking about the small forwards, we're playing with 5 small forwards, Durden, Motlop, Williams, White, and Fogarty. So I anticipate this could be one change or one area of change in our team based upon matchups when further height is needed in the side structurally that could allow Carroll and potentially Cowan to play in the same side, especially if Sauce is swung forward. So it means that, we definitely need another tall down in defence, which has happened obviously a couple of times already with Sauce being swung forward. So again, just to summarise, he's been scoring quite well. His job security is a little bit of a shaky worry, something that we need to keep a watch on. And yeah, I can't definitively say that he's going to stick around on the team long term. Maybe mid to long term, but long term, no, I can't say. So we'll just have to wait and see when it comes to team selections. Moving on now to round things out is Corey Durden, forward, 208.9k, another Carlton player. Wow. Break even of negative 66. And, another Carlton player on the bubble, but he is at the more expensive end of the cash cow spectrum. He's now into his 5th year in the system, and Durden is finally finding his both continuity and form in his game, scoring 91 and 98 in his first 2 games of 2025, having been ravaged by injury across his journey in the AFL thus far. His historical averages aren't anything to write home about, however, with a career high average of just 52.6 back in 2023. Now, the beauty of Durden's role is he has the tendency to play a higher role that allows him to push up the ground and then roll back, gathering possessions and link play, and isn't just confined to kicking goals like a stereotypical small forward. But obviously, being a small forward, his scoring output will naturally fluctuate wildly, and I'm confident that he is Carlton's best small forward going forward. I spoke about this on my equivalent Carlton channel, which is Blue Baggers Edge. Bit of a small plug there for any fellow baggers out there keen to check it out. He is at the higher price point of 208.9k, but I don't think he can sustain his current scoring enough to justify selection, at least in my side. I really do love him, and as I said, he's someone that I'm very bullish about in terms of our small forward brigade. I think he's very much at the front. Just keep it in mind, I wouldn't do it potentially, but yeah, he's an option nonetheless. But with that, ladies and gents, let us dust off the old cap, put on the old captain's armband, and say, I'm the captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
In On the Captain Now, we chat about what VC and C options you've got for the upcoming round of SuperCoach. As always, we've scrounged through the data and found the best options for you to consider and narrowed it down to our top options. First up, we have Nick Daicos. Daicos, he faces the Dons, who are the 5th hardest team to score against, and we could expect Setterfield, potentially, or Durham, to play a close checking role on him. However, it seems as though Daicos may have worked out how to break tags, as I mentioned earlier, having scored 134 against James Jordan and then 172 last week, despite some close checking from especially Berry. And Daicos, he loves playing the Dons, especially on Anzac Day, scoring 145 and 128 in his last 2 Anzac Day games, winning a medal among all that as well. So we know what we can expect from Nicky Daicos. Setterfield has, historically been a pretty good cooler, if you want to call him that, or tagger. Durham is an endurance athlete as well, can stick around with him. But, for those of us with Daicos, which should be a lot more owners coming into this round, he is definitely a very juicy VC option. In the same game, we'll mention him now, it is Zach Merritt. Zach put it in H. Merritt. He may end up being a pod VC, given his poor outing against the Eagles last round, as many who own both may instead opt for Daicos coming off that big score. As we know in SuperCoach, I guess the recency bias, that's the word for it, is the one thing that does hold true, and it's something that I think a lot of people are dictated by. So with regards to that, low score from Merritt might see a lot of people shy away from putting even the VC on him. And of course, with Collingwood and the matchup that he has against them, he absolutely loves playing them. His recent scores against them read 127, 145, 133, 123, 133, 116, and 120 in his past 7 encounters. So absolute juice. Liam does mention, though, to me that it's a little bit of a worry and a watch with regards to the weather. If it is very, very wet, he mentions that it may not be conducive to his style of game, so it might be worth looking elsewhere if it is wet. But nonetheless, he's in some decent form. Didn't hit the heights like we expected against the Eagles, but you could almost lock in a really, really big game against the Pies that he will be able to, reach those heights that he has previously against the Pies. Let's move on now to Maxi Gawn. Gawn faces Richmond, who he has produced some massive recent scores against with 162, 174, and then 98 in his past 3. Nank is the second easiest matchup for opposing rucks, as evidenced by TDK smashing out a 148 against him in round 1. And this comes off the back of some very solid form for Gawn as well, with scores of 122, 145, and 117 in his 3 recent scores for 2025. So I really like him as a prospect as well. We also have Zach Butters, and Butters is in scintillating form with scores of 107, 135, and 164. And on top of that alone, needs to be considered when we see he is facing North Melbourne this week. Combine that with his recent form line against North, scoring 113, 139, and 104, and it makes him one to consider. Another one to consider is Tristan Xerri, back in form in a big way, scoring 144 against TDK. Now plays Port Adelaide, who he scored 119 against last time out. And sweet, he gave up 139 points last round to Brodie Grundy. So could, I guess in this case, another high disposal getting ruckman in Xerri, like Grundy, also have a similar outing. It's a bit left field, but if you're looking for a pod VC, he could definitely be one, because Xerri, he's a dominant ruckman. He should be a top 2 ruckman, maybe top 3. We'll have to wait and see how he performs. But it looks as though on the weekend, that was kind of a bit of a snapshot of getting back into that good form, that dominance that he had in especially the back part of 2024. Now, to round things out, our captaincy head-to-head tips. Liam, well, last week he backed in Zach, put it in H. Merritt, who returned a score of 106, whilst my choice in Brayshaw posted 120, giving me my 4th win overall. The differential between both of us is 61 points. This week, I am first up, so I'm going to go with Wispy Daicos against the Dons, whilst Liam is going for Tristan Xerri. So it is that time, Q&A time, ladies and gents. So asked you on Twitter, and that's always the best way to do it. If you have a question for us, feel free to flick it through to us. Coming out of rounds, in between rounds, whatever, feel free to hit us up. That's the best way, the best avenue to do it on Twitter. We normally put out a tweet day of our recording, and we have had quite a few people sending through their Q&As. And panic mode for a lot of people, I've missed out on Daicos. Do I go for him? Do I go for someone else? Do I pay up for a Bont? All that sort of stuff. But hey, I'm here to say it's all good, man.
Wait, Jimmy, what?
It's all good, man.
So you've sent in your questions. I come at you with, hopefully, some half-decent answers. So first up, we have one sent in from TK at TKMac22 on Twitter. Now he asks, he's in a bit of a conundrum. Pryor, Trainer, Reid, who do you field? If you want to trade one to Flynn, but need to field one of the other two, what way would you sway? Okay, this is a tough one. This is a double-loaded question here. This is a bit of a shotgun question here, double-loaded, double-barrel. In terms of who I would trade out, it's a bit of a tough one. I think Pryor has a very, very low break-even. Let me have a quick look at that. He's got 15 as his break-even. I think Reid has 14. So that's kind of very, very similar there across both of those boys. I think in terms of points scored, Reid and Pryor are very similar. Trainer, as I mentioned, when that 2 comes out of his rolling price cycle after a couple of weeks, he's probably someone that's going to make a bit more coin, maybe longer term. I think Reid and Pryor will definitely make coin in the short term. So it's kind of hard. It's maybe, much of a muchness in this sense here. I own Trainer and Reid, and I'm trading out Trainer because Reid has a lower break even. I think Trainer will potentially bleed a little bit of cash before he starts making cash. So he'll offset that loss that he maybe has this weekend. But yeah, for me, I am trading out Trainer and keeping Reid. You could trade out one of those guys and it doesn't really matter who. I think they're all in a very similar boat in terms of, in terms of job security, they're all very rock solid. And in terms of scoring output, they're all very solid as well. So, probably you could maybe trade out Trainer, but if you want Trainer to make more money longer term, I think he probably will more so than Pryor and Reid. So I don't want to lead you down a path one way or another. That's totally up to you. I think there's merit in trading all of them or keeping all of them. But in terms of trading one to Flynn, as I said, on field, I would probably, it depends if Noah Bont is playing for Richmond. I haven't looked to see what the guidelines are with regards to him being a dickhead and what he's be found to the curfew that he has to abide by as a part of his the findings, I guess, if you want to call it that. Maybe I'm just worried that Bolton maybe impacts trainer anyway. So we haven't seen these two guys playing the same team until on the weekend, fleetingly, because trainer was the sub. But we're not going to know until until after this round. So it's either you take a guesstimation and you trade out trainer, or you go and trade out one of the two guys in Pryor and Reed. I think I rate Reed ahead of Pryor in terms of his ability to drift across and take intercept marks, which is an absolute gold mine when it comes to tall defensive players. So I would probably trade out, in your case, if you want to make more money, longer term, maybe keep trainer, keep Reed, get rid of Pryor, or you could keep Pryor, keep Reed, and trade out trainer. I think Reed out of those three is one that I would keep 100%. And in terms of on field, flip a coin, man. Flip a coin. I think Anzac Day should be very, very hotly contested. So I would probably put Reed on field. But yeah, if you're able to loop in any way, shape or form, Richmond play the first game of the round against Melbourne. So yeah, you could almost use the loophole with trainer with the emergency off the bench if you can do that. If not, it's a bit of an easier matchup as well against Melbourne to a degree. But yeah, that doesn't really answer your question, man. But it's really hard to say without seeing the rest of your team as well, because there may be other cash cows that you could make way instead of one of those three guys. The next question is from NWN007. He says, I don't have Daicos, Butters, Georgie Boy, Hewitt, or Bont, which is fine. I don't think a lot of people would have either of them, if not, more than one. But I can get one of them in. I find myself looking at Newcomb as an option, especially with his run. Good trade for value or nah? I feel like I need a different option to get into the top 1% as everyone's getting Nicky D. Now, that's true. I mean, you've got to differentiate along the way, but I think you've got to kind of play by the numbers, dictated by the numbers. And I think with regards to Daicos, with the break even that he's got of 54, he's not going to be this cheap again. Like, he could realistically, if he scores 120 plus, go up another 30K, and you got to find 30K from somewhere to then get him into your team. So I'm not a massive fan of paying up and paying beyond means to get in a Bont, Butters, Georgie Boy, Hewitt, even. Like, these guys are going to come down in price at some point. As we saw last season, have a look at the way, click into Bont's profile in SuperCoach and have a look at his scoring in the early part of 2024 with Bont. I think he was was he the most expensive or second most expensive? Round about, 680, 690. It might have been 700K, I actually think. And he actually dropped in price to be around about, he was just hovering just above 600K. So he's going to drop in price. Butters will as well, inevitably. Georgie Boy Hewitt, I think, it's sort of hard to know whether or not he'll continue his run. He's been in career best form. Maybe will, but, I'd prefer to go for a Butters, Bont, Daicos ahead of him. But yeah, 100%. I'd be going for Nicky D. The one thing with Newcomb as well, and part of the reason why we haven't, chatted about him at length in the trade segment is the fact that with Will Day no longer in the team, who are they going to tag? If they face opposition coaches that tag, he's going to be the one. And we've seen it in previous seasons where he has a really, really big deviation in his scoring. He has a low floor, but a really high ceiling. And that difference between the lower score and the higher score is standard deviation. So it means that the wider the deviation or the longer the deviation, it's not a very good thing, especially if you're playing for head-to-head. I mean, if you're playing for overall, it works out in the end. All you need to have a look at is averages, but I think you've really got to have a look ahead at his fixture. I know it looks really good in recent rounds because he's facing West Coast, Richmond, and then Melbourne, but then faces Gold Coast, Brisbane, Collingwood, Dogs, Adelaide. So it gets a little bit tougher from there, and I just think that he's the one that they need to target. You shut down Newcomb, and you're halfway to shutting down Hawthorn's end of the room, I think, without Will Day there, because he is the number one instructor, Newcomb, good old Duke. without Will Day. So I'd be going for, in short, Nicky Daicos 100%. Lock that in, mate. And then bide your time with Butters, Hewitt, and Bont. They will drop in price inevitably. Next up, we have Nini Pasta Supercoach on Twitter, and he says, Ned Long thoughts, the run is huge and the roll is amazing. He is 311k and he's scoring like a primo. This man can get to 400k plus and even be a keeper for a long while until upgraded to like a Bont and Butters. Long has really helped out Nick, both sharing the ball in the mid, of course, that being Nick Daicos. Now, Liam was mentioning this as well. He was actually thinking about bringing in Ned Long. The one thing with Ned Long, and I kind of liken it to me jumping on Ryan Marrick. I jumped on Marrick a couple of weeks ago when he was priced very similarly to what Ned Long is now at 311k. And the main reason for that was Marrick has a very good role in defense. He's getting kick-ins, all that sort of stuff, whilst making a little bit of cash. I think there's a similar sort of scenario and justification you could use for Ned Long. I guess the bonus with Ned Long is he is scoring quite well. He's got the role in the engine room and loves to tackle, which is right up our alley. As we know, it does provide a very, very high floor for those sort of players. So I actually like him as an option. I do like him. He's not for everyone because, again, comes down to team dependency. Can you fit him into your team? You don't want to be going for a heap of these, 300k players. But, like you've said there, that he can help bridge that gap. So if you can get, 100 plus score here and there, he will be able to push toward 100k, 100%, but it's not a given. That's the thing. So it's kind of an iffy thing. You can go either way, but if it fits your team and structure, feel free. Next up, we have Rookie Coach, an absolute gun. Go and check out his content on YouTube. An absolute gentleman as well. Funny bastard, all that sort of stuff. Check him out, Rookie Coach. So he asks, trainer, is he a hold? Is he a downgrade week? Is a downgrade week viable to clear out Deadwood? I think 100%. I mean, now's still the time to jump on rookies whilst they're still available. I think we're kind of veering into the stage now where really good rookies and cash cows are drying up until the mid-season rookie draft. And it always happens. It always happens. And part of the reason why we're kind of going for these alternative options with, Matt Flynn making coin, potentially Ned Long, as we spoke about, Ryan Marrick as well in recent weeks. So I think, 100%, it's viable to downgrade as opposed to upgrade, but try and strike a balance. That's always the way that I go down. Prioritize Nick Daicos 100%, whilst also prioritizing getting in, decent rookies. I think this week there aren't really any must-have rookies. Matt Carroll, he's got a really nice break even, but again, job security, we don't know as yet. Things are a little bit shaky there. But trainer, is he a hold? Spoke about him already. You can go either way. I think you can justify getting rid of him if it helps you get a primo into your team. And you can also justify keeping him in your team because once that 2 cycles out of his 3-round price cycle, then his break even will drop and he will be able to make more coin. Running things out, the last 2 questions we have. Actually, there's a couple more. SuperCoach Pro, another absolute legend. He's actually killing it. He's in the top 1,000. Check out his work, SuperCoach Pro, on YouTube. And he asks, wild shot, but any chance Durden can smash out another 90-ish game or at least 70? Also, who would you rather out of Will White or Spargo? Now, Spargo we didn't talk about. So we might just have a quick squeeze at good old Spargo. But I don't know about Spargo. He's priced 149.4k. Negative 28 break even. Faces Richmond, West Coast, so pretty good fixture coming up. He scored 33, negative 2, that being the sub, 46, and then a 70. So he could be an option maybe that we haven't spoken about, but I wouldn't be confident in him at all. So again, 149.4k, a little bit more expensive. Will White, spoke about him. He's going to be similar sort of scoring to Spargo anyway, I think. So they're kind of much of a muchness. I wouldn't go for either personally. Both, or at least with Spargo anyway, I reckon he's a bit of a sub-risk. And with Durden, I spoke about him. I think his scoring will kind of average out across the course of the season to be around about 60-ish. Might make a little bit more coin, but with fluctuations in scoring as a small forward, he could turn out to be a bit of a slow burn, as we've seen with Kako. Moving on to Jaden Bailey 13 on Twitter. He asks, if the cash is there to do it, is it worth upgrading a dead rookie to Ned Long? Already picking up Flynn and Carroll, there's still cash to be made, surely. There is, as I spoke of just before. I can see you're a pies man as well, Jaden, so you're invested both with head and heart. But yeah, I can justify bringing him in if it fits your structure. I wouldn't be breaking the bank to get Long into your team. I much prefer to go down the rookies and guns route because they complement each other. Going for the, reasonably priced rookies that will make decent cash allows you to then have that cash to upgrade from a mid-pricer to a primo. So, yeah, up to you, mate, if you want to go down that route, but I don't mind it. Lockie, he asks, need help deciding out of these two options? I might help you out on Twitter, mate, because it's hard to explain this on the podcast. But virtually, he said he's trading in Holmes, Matt Carroll, and Flynn for O'Sullivan and Trainer, which is pretty good. I actually really like that, mate. And the other option is Amon, Carroll, and Flynn in. Out goes O'Sullivan and Trainer. So same two outs. Only difference there is going for Holmes v. Eamon. I would go for Holmesy 100%. I know Eamon's in really good form. He's averaging 106.3. Very similar to Holmes. He's averaging 107, but I can see Holmes being more of a keeper. Holmes also has DPP, defensive midfielder status, which comes in handy. Take it from me. It saved me on the weekend. So yeah, he's someone that I'd go for 100%. Amon, I don't mind if you kind of got a penchant, a bit of a kink for all things pods. I'm not a massive fan of going for pods at this stage of the season. It's kind of more towards, after the halfway mark of the season. But if that's a strategy you want to go down, who am I to stand in your way, mate? And you've said honest thoughts on Carl Amon as a pick for a pod. Yeah, I'm not really 100% on it, mate. I wouldn't say I'm a massive fan, but yeah, if it helps you get a bit of a leg up, just be prepared, mate. If it doesn't pay off, that you're going to be burning a trade to trade him out as well. Like he hasn't averaged over 100 in his career across how many seasons? Like 10 seasons. So yeah, I think this is kind of an out of the box season. I remember in his first season at the Hawks, we were expecting him to really burst out of the blocks. Didn't happen. His average has gone up in his time at Hawthorn, 86.5, 91.7, and 106.3. So maybe you could do that. I just don't know if you can really hang your hat on it. It's a little bit of an iffy thing. So, I mean, other thing as well, like he's playing on the wing, and as we know, you can be blocked on one side of the ground when the play's virtually being camped on the opposite side. Like his scoring has been okay without being a massive standout. Like apart from the big game of the weekend, you take that away, which he scored 152. He scored 79, 106, 122, and 100. So nothing really blown out of the water. And he's played wing 100% of the time. He hasn't played any time through the middle. They are still using him, obviously, but I'm not a massive fan of wingmen, it must be said. So I think that's an out-of-the-box game, and kind of people are being seduced by that big game on the weekend. I don't think it's going to be a constant thing. You've got to realign your expectations. You take that out, and, his average will drop down to, 110 or something, thereabouts. Even lower than that should be, because he's 106.3 at the moment. So probably around about 100. So, yeah, I just think Holmes is a better option in all honesty, and just go from there. With that, ladies and gents, I think that is the end of all the questions. We had a whole heap coming through. Yes, we did tonight. So thank you again for those people sending those through. Hopefully I was able to help you out in some way, shape or form. But with that, let us jump through our, of course, where you can find us across our social channels. If you are yet to follow us on YouTube, of course, search SuperCoach Edge. Don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe to be notified of when our content drops from week to week. And I think click the notification bell. That will help you there as well. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, feel free to check out our channel where we do have memberships going as well. So if you want to support the channel, you get all these little perks as well. You can check it out. Check out the price points. There is the 2 tiers, gold and platinum. and totally up to you. No expectations, of course, but it is there for the taking if you are keen. On Twitter, you can find us at supercoach_edge, at DamoJ88 is where you can find myself, and Liam at LiamEvans_95. Facebook, Insta, TikTok, just search Supercoach Edge and you will find us there. Now, just to round things out as well, I think we always mention this, but our Open League, it is still open. And you can find it 623-082. If you have any league spots or open leagues, feel free to jump in. We will try and hook the winner up with a SuperCoach Championship ring and all the plaudits that go with it as well. We might just have a quick look whilst we're here. We have just ticked over the hour mark as well. We won't go on much longer because I am conscious of your time. But people have been asking, for those of you in the cash leagues, the SuperCoach Edge Cash Leagues, of course. A bit of an update as to how things are going. So the Cash League 1, in first place, Slims Garrison, massive supporter of ours. Slim, good to see you going well, mate. He is undefeated. Export Daniel in second spot. High IQ, unique individuals. Still dream of Heaney, very good. Love that. Chera Lady. Dinner for two, Adam, who is our number one ticket holder by far and away. Good to see he is in the top 8. And rounding things out is Crano _Supercoach. And the Cash League 2, we have Small Victories in first spot. We have Unique Individuals, Andrew's team in second. Zora Killer or Zora Silla in third spot. Dinner for two again, Adam. Again, number one ticket holder, just really man in the fort across both teams, both leagues, I should say. So incredible work from you there, Adam. Nards FC in fifth spot. Brisbane Bombers in sixth. Is Don is good, 76 in seventh. And I am rounding things out in eighth spot. I've had a bit of a slow start across both of the contributor leagues and likewise Liam as well. So people are getting the wood over us. Just these tough matchups. That's all that's doing us in, maybe. Well, that rounds us out for all things round 6. We hope you had a great weekend. And if not, don't stress. We're still early in the season. There is time to turn things around. Prioritise getting in those fallen primos like Wispy Daicos and the like. Best of luck for round 7, and we'll see you next week to do it all again. We'll catch you then.